Hi, I'm James, and on the desk today I have a Dell Latitude 7390, and we're going to look at how to replace the mainboard and the keyboard. So you may only want to replace one of these at a time, so if you have a failed mainboard or a bad keyboard, but since the removal of the mainboard is involved in replacing the keyboard, it makes sense to look at both at the same time. So our first job is to turn the laptop over, and we have these 8 screws on the back to remove. These are all exposed as this is a sort of business orientated machine, so it's very easy to service this system, very easy to replace most of the main components, and yeah, just generally a pretty easy machine to work with just a Phillips 00 and O screwdriver bit. So in this case I'm using a Phillips O bit, and just a small plastic pry tool. I will include links in the description to all the components that I'm using through Amazon affiliate links, and if you find this video helpful, do give me a like and a subscribe if you want to see more videos in future. And if you've used this to upgrade or repair your device, then do please consider giving a super thanks, as this helps towards the cost of running all this channel. So with these screws undone, and just making sure we've done the middle one as well, we're now just going to, we could use the pry tool, but actually often isn't necessary, but we're just going to push the pry tool in at the back. You can just do this with fingers, just get fingernails under the back here, and we want to lift and lever it forward so it opens like so. With that done, our first job is to release the battery, so to disconnect that. So what we're going to do is take hold of the connector, the little pull tab on top of the connector here, and just disconnect that. That then isolates the battery from the system, so everything is electrically off. The battery is a case of 2 screws, one on each side. The third one here is actually attached to the base of the laptop, so it's already removed when you've removed the base panel, and of course we already have the battery unplugged. With that done, we can then simply lift the battery up and out. So having gone through this, we're now going to look at how to replace the motherboard and the keyboard. So our first thing to do is we need to start removing the ancillaries from the mainboard. So we're going to remove the SIM card cover there just with a paperclip or SIM removal tool. Our memory module can also come out. This obviously, if you're just replacing the keyboard, you can leave the memory module in. And then because the motherboard is going to come out, we also need to remove our SSD. Next, we also have to remove our wireless WAN card. So popping off that cover and then removing the 2 antenna cables, and then slotting out the card itself, and the same for our wireless LAN card. So remove that cover, and then disconnect the cables and pop out the card itself. Here we can then lift and unroute those cables so they are out the way of the mainboard. We also, if we were putting in a new mainboard, would remove the heatsink. As it is, because I've already just repasted this, I'm just going to remove the 2 screws from the fan, and that will allow us to lift it out with the mainboard. We then have a couple other pieces to remove here. So we have this ESD cover for the DIMM slot. So this is held down with the screw here, and then we can lift that clear of the board. Again, if we're refitting the board, then we would just unscrew this and not need to remove it. But just to show you how to remove it, comes off like that and then goes on back in the same place. I'm just going to pop that to one side for now. And then we also have a cover here, which is for the EDP connector for the screen. So we undo the 2 screws here and lift the cover, and then again we have a little handle here. I'm going to use that in conjunction with the pry tool just to pop the cable there. There's then a little tape here, so we're going to unpeel that and pull that cable safely out the way. I'm then going to remove again the DC jack. I'm going to leave this connected to the main board. Obviously, as we showed before, this can be replaced. So if we were transferring to a new board, we would obviously remove that and transfer it across, but I'm just going to lift it up like so. On this side, we then have a few other ribbon cables to disconnect. So we have the touchpad cable here, which goes into the main board, and this other one for this daughter board here, which I think is RFID or smart card and bits. So pull that out, and then we also have on this side our speaker cable, which again, sorry if that's a bit hard to see. We have the BIOS battery, which we're going to just remove completely for now, as per our replacement earlier. And then we have an additional, so we have an LED board here. This looks like it may be a bit tricky to remove elegantly on the camera. That might be one which we remove once the board is lifted, as it might make it just a bit easier for access. With that done, we can then go round and we have various screws which we need to remove to get the board out. So this second one in here, so the ones which need to come out to remove the board should be marked. So we can see these ones with the arrows to them are the ones which are needed to remove the main board itself. So we have 3 on this side. There are 2 here. These can stay there related to the actual port that they're alongside. Then we have 1 either side of the fan, or the heatsink I should say. And then 3 down on the left side. So interestingly, it appears there should also be a screw here, however it is not present on this machine. So whether that was an issue from the factory or it has been opened some point in the past, I'm not sure, but do check whether you have a screw there. We're then going to just use our pry tool to try and lift the board from this side. And once we get that USB-C port clear, we should then be able to lift the main board, and then hopefully without breaking the cable, and there we go, so removing that LED board connector as well. With that done, we can then remove our main board and place it to one side and turn our attention to the keyboard. So to make access around here a bit easier, what I'm going to do is disconnect the touchpad and the USH cables here, putting them to one side to put back in later. And then we have this shield over the keyboard, which we're going to remove. This involves removing all these screws around the edge, and will just take a couple minutes, so I'll probably fast forward this. With these all removed, we should then using the pry tool to just lift and going in on the other side. So there's a few clips here. Let's also, while we're at it, let's unclip the ribbon cable for the keyboard itself. And like so, we've popped the keyboard out of the chassis. So when it comes to refitting our keyboard, what we can see is on the keyboard side we have a number of metal snaps here. So when we place it back in, we want to place the keyboard into position and then just open the laptop a little and press it in just in a few places just to make sure those have engaged. We should then, when we lift, see there is some resistance and the keyboard isn't just pulling out as we pick it up. Just going to do another one on this side and that should all be okay. We're now going to return the screws into the keyboard surround. So this is just the reverse of what we did a moment ago. With the keyboard screwed back in, we're now going to reconnect the keyboard into the touchpad, like so. And now we want to take our mainboard and get it back into the chassis. So what I'm going to do is connect the LED cable here just by pressing it in, as that was quite hard to get out in the first place, and was easier once we'd removed, so it should be easier this way around as well. We want to make sure we're not trapping the antenna wires or the EDP cable as we get the board back in, and what we're going to have to do is just so gently press in to this side, and then we just want to flex the board very slightly, as little as possible, to get this pressed in on this end. And so just here we are not quite lined up with these lugs, so we just need to ease the board down slightly, just pry tool in there to move it, and that has got the board back into the chassis. We are then going to screw the board back in with the same ones that we removed originally. So we have 3 up this side. On this one, like I say, I was missing that one there, so I'm going to put the 2 in. I may see if I can find a replacement screw there later, and then the 2 either side of the heatsink. Obviously in my case here I kept the heatsink on and plugged in. That was the wrong hole, it's the one marked with the white arrow there. And here as well. So with that done, we can then reconnect things to the board. So we can put back on our EDP cable, our speaker cable, BIOS battery, and the USH ribbon cable, in replacing that completely. So inserting that into the socket here, and then connecting it on the board side as well. Just going to double check that one is correctly inserted there. That's better. Then we also have the touchpad cable, we have our cover for the EDP cable, so making sure this is the right way round with the ridge at the top. And say that in place, and just make sure the cable is routed nicely there so it's not going to cause any issues. And then we just have the EMC shield for the DIMM. and our DC jack. Next I'm going to fit the WAN card, so press that into place, and also the wireless LAN. So we want to make sure these cables are routed back in correctly. So this is just a rubber guide to press them into on the board itself. So we want to make sure they slot into there. This will probably be easier if we use the pry tool to just help get them in through the rubber. And then we can reconnect our antennas. Pressing down just with fingertip to connect it, and the same for the wireless card. These are the most fiddly connectors in the whole machine. One and two. With those then reconnected, we can put over the shields for them as well and screw them down. And then reconnect it. Before we forget as well, we must screw down the fan. And now we are ready to refit the base panel. So to refit, we are going to push this in at the front, and then simply screw in with the 8 retained screws. We're also going to remember to refit our SIM cover when we've finished. But I hope you found this video useful. If you have, please give it a like and consider subscribing to the channel if you want to see more repair guides and reviews of laptops and other systems. Consider leaving us a super thanks if you found this helpful in repairing your system and would like to help towards the channel's running costs. And all in all, thank you for watching. Have a great day.